ask anybody's question but yours. You're an idiot. And really a disloyal person.
Do you remember that scene in Hard Knocks when J.J. Watt crests the hill and starts walking down in the joint Houston Texans Atlanta Falcons practice?
No, never saw
This
it.
This is a seminal piece of cinema that I shall introduce to you after this podcast recording,
Okay.
Steve. Because this is the basis of our podcast title. And welcome to the Disloyal Idiots Podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network. Christian Guzman here with Steve Haller. Andy Pregler is currently defaulting to his other nationality and cheering on his other nationality in the footballs.
Yeah, after watching what the U.S. just did, just added to the list of. Yeah, never mind. We're not going to get into that on this.
See, I've always liked Jesse Marsh, so and he can apparently coach a team even while watching from the suite level.
Yeah, that was Hugh Freeze level coaching from the box.
Where's my camera? There we go.
There you go.
The thumbs up, perfect.
So yeah, where are we starting today with the Syracuse stuff? Because I don't want to talk about U.S. stuff anymore.
It's definitely the football, and we will try and get some audio things sorted out there. And we think we've got it now. It's the football, not the basketball, because there's a lot of football stuff that happened. And again, title of the show, the one that's making the headlines right now, it's hard to ignore, and it's the suggestion of joint practices in college programs. Now, this hasn't been allowed by the NCAA, but Deion Sanders essentially put out there in a press conference or some sort of media clip that he's interested in schools coming to Colorado or setting up some sort of joint practice, kind of like what NFL teams do in training camp.
Yeah,
and
he sent out a bat signal to any school that said, "Hey, come answer this call, and we'll do something joint and kind of promote both of our programs."
And quite a few schools did actually respond to that tweet, most notably the head coaches of said schools. Many schools did reach out and quote tweeted it on X or Twitter and basically said, hey, it's, our schools would definitely be interested. But the most notable coach, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, was one Fran Brown of Syracuse University. And from what we know, based on Fran's comments on Friday, the first day of spring practice, which is only a couple of days ago, and based on some other reporting with other reporters talking to Syracuse spokespeople, paperwork has been officially filed between Syracuse and Colorado and from both institutions to the NCAA to allow this type of joint practice between Syracuse and Colorado.
Yeah, whether the NCAA actually takes it up and acknowledges it and allows it is its own animal. I feel like anybody involved is questioning why in the hell you wouldn't. It's almost like at this point looking free money and free publicity in the face and saying no, especially with two, programs that are both in the media for different reasons. Syracuse returning to form, Coach Prime being Coach Prime. There's a lot of possibilities for the NCAA to not drop the ball on this, which makes me think they will.
That's correct. You are probably correct, and we're going to be really sad when that happens.
Right. I mean, it's, if nothing else, it's getting Syracuse and Colorado into the media cycle for the spring, which inherently, especially with all these colleges canceling their spring games or closing everything down, is going to be harder and harder to come by this year. So I'd say this is kind of a win-win for both schools, even if they don't end up pulling it off.
And what is the reason for most of these programs causing the spring games to be canceled or the spring practices to be essentially cut off from media access? A lot of people are saying it's because of tampering in the portal. Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be right out there and say I don't believe you.
No, but it's a very convenient scapegoat and a convenient coach speak way to keep things shut down.
True, especially in college where the rules are more wild west on programs basically regulating media access.
Yeah.
Like in the NFL, which is one of the few things I like about the NFL over college football, is the transparency that's essentially forced upon teams based on NFL rules.
Yeah.
And like to your point, Steve, having Syracuse and Colorado basically, preach their wants for this type of joint practice is putting their program names out into the stratosphere and out into the media landscape because people are talking about, hey, this is a cool idea. This is going to be great for both programs. And you're not going to see that same buzz about a Nebraska who is not having a spring football game or a Florida State who is not allowing media to cover spring practices.
Yeah, and I don't know why, this may be one of the first media savvy things Syracuse has done in a while, even with their renowned media school.
Well, yeah, but also, from knowledge, the media people can only do so much in this regard.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
it's not
remember at the
people. It's
exactly.
a knock on like the athletics department in general.
Well, and it's not just the athletic departments in general either. You got to remember, unfortunately, for some people, like based on how you perceive this, who makes all the final calls in a program at an athletic institution at a university? It is the head coach of said program.
Yeah.
And so the main reason why, maybe media access was limited in previous years, especially here at Syracuse, was because the head coaches made those decisions.
Yeah. And that's been something many of the past head coaches, including, successful past head coaches like Marone and to a degree, Babers, none of them wanted any access to their programs from anyone that wasn't explicitly vetted. Here's a cookie cutter piece you can do on X, Y, or Z, which to their or from their standpoint, that's a very old school coach mentality. Keep everything in house, keep everything under wraps. In the modern day, there's like, it seems actually, speaking of Coach Prime and Coach Fran, they're both savvy enough to be like, hey, let's just lay it out there. And if people want to come play for me, come play for me.
And let's think about this again. We talked about this last year a lot, and it bears repeating again. Because when we get to this time of year in spring practice, yes, it's a first time to see the players, and most of the time, maybe you'll get to talk to a couple of them. This is under past regimes. I remember in past football regimes, media members would be like trying to bargain with the coach through SIDs to get even a lick of seeing playing time. There were some times where you would only see the stretching period during Syracuse, which was completely useless to the media. Viewing the media. And of course, while we don't see the full practice like you would at the NFL level, as media members here at Syracuse, you still get to see a significant amount of media practice time to get an inkling of what the team is going to look like. And from what Coach Fran has said in just the past year about his ideas of practice and the like.
We're talking about practice?
Not a game, apparently. Yeah, not a game.
Right, but practice.
But practice. Side note, how many young people are not going to know that reference, and it's going to be frightening?
All of them.
Scary.
I mean, what year was AI? What year did AI come out?
Was that 21? Not 20. Was it in 2001?
Might have been, because he was drafted in 96.
Yeah.
By the Sixers. So
alrighty, everyone. Google the AI practice rant.
Yeah, that was so that was 2001, 2002 season.
Oh boy,
I was a senior in high school.
I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. That's not going to be lost on the younger generation soon. And you need to learn that we're talking about practice.
In all honesty, anyone who is sports savvy and sees that clip would totally understand and get it. But yeah, that clip at this point is lost to the ether.
It's so sad. But let's get back to like why we're talking about practice, not a game. Practice. Because Coach Fran in the past year has shown that he wants guys to be physical in practice. He wants people to have the show like that they can get up to game speed in practice. And you can only do that to such a degree against your own teammates.
Yeah.
Now pit yourself against a program where both programs want to be the best they can be. And want to, especially with you when you have two coaches who definitely want to show that they represent their institutions well, that they're going to, play for the name on the front a hell of a lot more than the name on the back. Shout out Herb Brooks.
Yeah, no, I want to see this happen.
Me too.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm hoping.
I'm hoping, but if nothing, over the years we've been doing this podcast, I feel like I usually end up being the damp towel that gets thrown over things.
Yeah.
And the NCAA is going to find a way to NCAA. That's all my brain can think.
It's just going to be really sad.
Yep. Let's have something that could be really, really good for both the sport and the, conferences and the NCAA and everything. And let's tie it behind bureaucratic paperwork.
We've had this discussion a number of times, and we might as well bring it back up again, just because this is the landscape that we're in right now, where so many teams, for a reason or another, are making decisions because the NCAA is not making decisions,
right,
and deciding to sit on its ass while they try and have court cases make the decisions for themselves.
Yeah, and I don't think that benefits literally anyone.
Where in fact they could be a progressive. I mean, I know, scary proposition. The NCAA could be progressive and see that, hey, something like a joint practice between Syracuse and Colorado could not only grow those respective brands, but could also grow more eyes in college football when you think about what they're doing in the NFL and becoming a year-long sport with year-long attention.
Yeah. Yep. And if you think about what, even to a degree, college soccer is doing with breaking out into a full year season and effectively breaking away from the NCAA, or the proposal to do that.
Because these programs are, deciding, hey, the governing body here is not going to make decisions. And it's not just not going to make decisions that we don't like. It's that they're not going to make decisions, period. Which is not helpful for anybody. It's sad that it takes court case decisions for the NCAA to make decisions.
Right.
Where they could get ahead of themselves and figure out, okay, we can make these X, Y, and Z decisions because it will help grow the benefit of our sports. And also, because of that, it will also net us more attention in the long run.
Yeah.
And in the long run, that will mean more money.
Well, why step over $1 to pick up a dime?
Exactly. But clearly, the NCAA, it takes forever for them to make a decision, And if they are going to be forced to make a decision, it's non-committal in either way. And usually it's, oh, we're just going to sit back and stay, put on our old ways because we don't want to have to be progressive and change something.
Yeah, change is always bad, though, Christian. What do you mean?
I can't.
Why don't we get off this before we drive ourselves absolutely insane on it?
We should.
What do we got for other football news?
Other football news is that spring practice did start. We got to see first looks at the new transfers and the new freshmen that have come in. This was one of the biggest freshman classes in the entire nation to join a program this year, and quite a few spring enrollees are into the program as well. The big news that made headlines, though, is that Fran Brown confirmed that Zeed Haynes is no longer playing football and is still a student at Syracuse University, but will no longer play football.
Yeah. So that's a big hit to the roster, but I feel all of us would agree. Zeed needs to do what Zeed needs to do, and if that was the choice, that was the choice. So more power to him, and good on him.
He left the team after the first 2 games due to personal family issues. Returned to the program in a way towards the end of the season, but Coach Brown has confirmed that Zeed Haynes is no longer playing football. And of course, the first thing is that, all wishes to him and that, he's doing okay and that he's found what he's wanted to do, which is important.
That said, what does that do for the wide receiver room?
Which is what we are getting to now. And this is a reason why Coach that France said it was a big reason why one of the reasons why they brought in wide receiver transfer Tyshawn Russell from South Carolina.
Okay. So this was a known. So Fran confirmed that this was a known commodity, that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Which
and this was probably again talked about in the off season.
Right.
So, I mean, Russell is another one of those players who is like Meeks and Haynes. Didn't get a lot of run at their previous school, but now has a chance to work their way into the Syracuse rotation and maybe put up some big numbers.
Yeah.
Because at South Carolina in 2 seasons, he only had 5 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. And that was all during his freshman year in 2023. He redshirted last year for South Carolina.
And that touchdown was thrown by former Syracuse commit Lenora Sellers,
who is now quickly becoming a Heisman favorite.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, no, I mean, Russell coming in, I guess, do we want to dive into the wide receiver room or do we want to dive into the transfer updates?
Let's dive. What we should do, actually, is we can get to the wide receivers in a bit. Because, as we know, the wide receiver room can be great. Can be fantastic, even. But it probably doesn't matter if you don't have someone competent throwing them the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Which means we are going to the quarterback battle.
Okay.
And there is an open quarterback battle. Coach Fran openly admitted that. And the good thing for Syracuse fans, at least, is that Fran has openly said that he is looking to determine his starter quickly.
Hey, even better. The quicker we know what the end game is of this battle, the better it will be for the wide receiver room and the linemen and the rest of everybody getting to know that player. And also, as dumb as it sounds, once the pecking order is established, you also have the chance to fight against the pecking order. If Collins is named the starter, Williams is going to have a chip on his shoulder and continue to work to get to the point where he's better than Collins. If Collins is named it, he's going to have to continually work because he knows Williams is right on his heels.
So this is all off the assumption that LSU transfer Ricky Collins is going to be the number one quarterback. And during the open practices of spring football, it seems like Ricky Collins had been taking most of the reps with the ones so far.
And off
So
of
he's
my
been given-
statement, that was strictly because I have the transfer portal page up and his name was staring at me. So
Yes. And again, and it seems like, especially, based on what we've been told, Collins is Collins, from what I can tell, and this could be wrong, Collins wasn't given any guarantee that he was going to be the starter when he committed to Syracuse, that it was going to be an open battle. But from what it sounds like and what it seems like, he's going to be given every opportunity to prove that he'll be the number one.
Yeah, Fran doesn't seem like someone who's going to guarantee someone a spot unless you're of a caliber of Kyle McCord.
Unless you are Kyle McCord.
Right. So unless Kyle McCord comes through those doors again, which is kind of awkward since he's exhausted all eligibility, I think we're into open competition territory.
Because we love trivia, Steve.
Oh, boy.
How many quarterbacks are on the Syracuse roster right now?
Is this including walk-ons?
This is including walk-ons.
5?
There are 8.
Shoosh.
And from what I can tell, only 3. But your 5 is a good guess because 5, from what I can tell, is the amount of scholarship quarterbacks.
Oh, see, I went with 5 thinking there was 3 scholarship quarterbacks. What do we have in the room?
Your scholarship quarterbacks are in most likely order on a depth chart based on my personal bias and knowledge is Ricky Collins.
Okay.
Michael Johnson Jr.
Okay.
Jakari Williams.
Okay.
And then the 2 freshmen, Luke Carney and Rich Beeline.
So I was forgetting Carter Williams. I was forgetting Michael Carter Williams.
Yes, Michael Carter Williams, yes.
Who
Who somehow only made his first trip back to the Dome to call the Syracuse UVA game this past season.
Which is insane. Also insane to see him in the booth, but hey, that's awesome. So I forgot about Michael Johnson Jr. Completely because he played wide receiver last year. Well, kind of ish, maybe.
No.
He came in as a wide receiver.
Yes.
He played quarterback. That's what it was. And then I forgot we had 2 coming in, even though if you asked me if we had 2 coming in, I would have said yes.
There we go.
I knew Carney and Beelan, but in my brain, I'm like, oh, that's one person. Okay, cool. Let's go. So yeah, that's a lot of quarterbacks.
It is. Your 3 walk-ons, to shout out the walk-ons, are Patrick Grusser, AJ Miller, and shout out to Joseph Filardi. You want to know why Joseph Filardi is an interesting man?
I do.
Do you know the name? Do you know the name Jordan Faison?
Yeah.
Joseph Filardi is looking to pull a Jordan Faison.
Okay.
Filardi is walking on to the team of Syracuse as a quarterback.
Is he on scholarship for Lex?
He is the number 28 overall recruit in the class of 2025.
So yes. Yes, he's on. Okay, that is kind of cool and makes sense. Huh. All right. I like it.
Indeed.
Well then, it seems like, yeah, I mean, if nothing else, that's more athletes on the roster.
Yeah, so
and if it's not taking a scholarship spot, then awesome.
Yeah. So again, that's 8 quarterbacks in the room for Syracuse.
Jesus. That's not bad for an open competition.
No, not at all. But again, we expect the competition to be between Collins, Johnson, and Williams.
Yep. Other things that I didn't remember regarding transfer portal stuff, since I don't know if there was any crazy updates since we last saw our heroes, but I forgot Caden Bailey went to Eastern Michigan.
Yes.
Russell came in. Sparrow officially has withdrawn and is back in the rotation, right?
Yes. I saw him at Pro Day, so yes.
Oh, there you go.
Mhm.
Marcellus Barnes still hurts to SMU.
Yeah.
Because I think the last time we've talked about a lot of these guys, some of them may not have had landing spots at that point.
True.
So Marcellus Barnes Jr., our former starting quarterback, transferred to were they officially the champions of the ACC?
No, that was Clemson.
No, they lost to Clemson in the championship. Yeah. So yeah, Nikhil Bertrand came in from Alabama.
Yes,
tackle. Yeah. Brady Denneberg left for the friendly confines of Minnesota
to the Fighting Dick Monroes.
Yep. Braden Davis has gone to nowhere at this point. I don't believe he has a landing spot per 24/7. Chris Thomas Jr., a D lineman, came in from Marshall from the Thundering Herd, which I did not remember.
I believe he's one of Marshall's better players. He might have been one of their leading tacklers, if I remember correctly.
Well, I enjoy that statement. Florida kid from Dunbar, which I believe we have at least one kid on the roster from. So that would explain a connection at least, and Fran's newfound affinity for Florida after conquering New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Thomas, 13 games, 42 tackles, 3.5 TFLs, 1 sack.
Okay. I'll take it. 6'6", 327, so he's not a small human being.
Still not the biggest guy on the roster. We'll get to that in a bit.
Which was previously vacated by what's his name?
Kalen Ellis.
That's it. Noah Roasak, speaking of former offensive lineman, is now a Delaware Blue Hen. Jaden Gould took off for UCF. Carlos Del Rio Wilson did the swap with Chris Thomas and went to the Thundering Herd. Josh Miller, I believe, pulled out, right? He entered and then removed himself.
I don't remember.
I'll see if, as I scroll up on the 24/7 list, that we find out. We have a second Fran Brown on the roster coming in from St. Francis, Fran Brown Jr.
Oh, right. Forgot about him.
Yep, which 24/7 actually raised his high school stock significantly. You know how they give that little signy thing for people that have drastically improved. So he's a 3-star linebacker transfer, rated 82 coming in, which, hey,
you'll take that.
On top of family connections, I'll take a 82 rated linebacker.
Yeah.
All name team Trip Woody is our new kicker coming in from Iowa. Let's see. We get into weird duplicate things. Yes, Josh Miller did officially withdraw. Lysander Moyolu is now a Texas State Bobcat. And Jeanre Reed went to USC, which really, to me, hurts. Mm-hmm. Like, with 1 year left of eligibility, he goes to USC, the Western one, not the South Carolina.
Not the South Carolina one.
Right. Also, Michael Nokocha went to Texas State as well. And I think that is the comprehensive list outside of the fact that David Reese came in from Cal. So we got right back in it with him.
Indeed.
Actually, another reference that will be lost on the Youngs.
So many people. So sad.
Yep. So
one of these podcasts will dedicate to classic Syracuse broadcasting moments, / press conference moments.
Oh, we got to get Craig Weirin on that one. Actually, we got to get Kevin in on that one.
Maybe we can exhume the body of Sean Keeley somewhere and get him here as well.
Oh, that'd be a fun one. That would
exactly. Let's get back to the discussion we were talking about earlier in the podcast. Because we were talking about the quarterbacks, and of course the quarterbacks need people to throw to.
Yes.
And so when you look at this wide receiver room, it's interesting. The seniors in this wide receiver room are Trevor Pena, Umari Hatcher, and Justice Ross Simmons. And then your juniors are Daryl Gill and Daryl Gill and Daryl Gill.
Well, junior, not senior.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. And your juniors are
very awkward.
Well, this is why I'm saying that your juniors in the room are Daryl Gill, and Daryl Gill, because he's the only junior, either junior or redshirt junior,
Oh, and possibly the only junior.
and the only junior.
There you go.
Exactly. And in terms of sophomores, the only sophomore on the team is, in terms of sophomore, redshirt sophomore, is walk-on Nick Armentano and the aforementioned Tyshawn Russell, the transfer from South Carolina. Everyone else is a freshman or redshirt freshman.
That I both love and hate that.
Please, Steve, why do you both love and hate that?
I love that we have that much young depth. I hate that all we have is that much young depth.
Jalen Hornsby, Teron Hale, Emmanuel Ross, Jameer Thomas, Darius Johnson, true freshman, and Nate Edwards, your young players on this team.
So of that, we have Emmanuel Ross that got meaningful numbers last year.
Mm-hmm. And based on what I saw from last training camp, this staff is high on Jalen Hornsby and Jameer Thomas.
Okay. If they're high on him, I'm high on him.
Yes. So, so you don't have the high-flying production of Meeks coming back, and also you could say Gadsden, but he still had Trevor Pena coming back. You have the second coming of Jamal Custis and Amari Hatcher back. Not as tall as Custis, but able to make a catch under 20 yards. Which is also the second coming of Damian Alford.
Yeah.
That's Amari Hatcher.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll at the same time I'll take Damian Alford with upside.
Yes.
Like,
you have Daryl.
Did fine for us for a lot of years.
And then you have Daryl, and then you still have Daryl Gill, who again impressed enough last year, and maybe if he puts on a couple of pounds, could be an outside guy.
7 pounds soaking wet with a cinder block tied to him wasn't enough beef to handle the ACC.
Yeah, it's not Marek Dolezaj.
Yeah. God, I just had the replay of him getting absolutely run over
by Zion.
Yes. That just flashed through my head. So, but yeah, I mean, in all honesty, if Gill could put on some pounds and be able to play in areas that aren't just him and a cornerback, it would drastically let him take over for Pena after he leaves. I don't know.
Yeah.
Find a way to utilize him that isn't just run fast straight ahead and maybe a post.
Based on what I'm seeing in this depth chart, your two starting outside wide receivers in a few months could be Justice Ross Simmons, hopefully he's healthy,
right,
and Emmanuel Ross.
I mean, that I could think of worse things. I mean, Ross Simmons was supposed to be, before the injury, he was supposed to be cracking the 2 deep and possibly pushing for a spot last year. So
yes.
I'll that I'm more than comfortable with, and Ross showed that he's got skills last year too. So if we can get them the ball, which we talked about earlier is the initial quizzical quandary, we should be okay there.
And then theoretically, your slot guys are Pena and Gill, and that's still a pretty good receiving room.
Yeah. I mean, that Pena guy's a little shaky. I don't know about him, but
no, 1,000 yards last year. Or no, close to 1,000 yards last year.
Oh,
I think it was 900.
Damn.
Because Meeks was the only one last year to 1,000, I believe.
Oh, everybody else was at like 950.
900. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you spread the ball around to literally everyone. Like when Aronde Gadsden doesn't have to be your only option, things open up.
Gadsden 934, Pena 941.
Yeah.
Which brings us to that tight end room.
Mm-hmm. Which I believe has almost as many people in it as the aforementioned quarterback room.
Well, only 4, but that's still pretty big for a tight end room.
Oh yeah, no. Last year was our mass exodus of tight ends. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which
brings on an interesting quandary with this tight end room. because you do have some quote unquote veteran talent. Of course, Dan Villari, good old Thundercat Dan Villari, back for one final swing. And then you also still have Dave Clement, who people forget and don't realize how massive Dave Clement is.
Yeah. Also, Valeri's not back in the quarterback room.
Shockingly.
So technically, we have 9 quarterbacks on the roster. But yeah, Clement, what does he clock in at? He's like
6'6", 256.
Yeah. So he's not a small human being.
No. But what does this mean in the tight end room? Because there's a certain someone that a lot of people are very high on, at least in the online community. And is it his time to shine now with the success that Oronde Gadsden has had? And of course, that means I'm talking about Jamie Tremble.
Yeah, who we brought in as kind of the heir apparent to that spot. I have not seen much of him. You have seen more of him. What are your thoughts on him?
As long as he's learned to not body catch, he could be very, very good. Because it feels like he has the athleticism to be Gadsden. Obviously, not the same height, but it feels like he has the same athleticism. It's just that everyone last year was ragging on him for being a body catcher.
Yeah, about that. I think the more you hang out with a good quality coaching staff, the more that'll get broken from you.
Exactly. So I would assume that gets broken down.
Yeah.
It feels like he's got a high ceiling. And I feel like you could start to see him more and more in terms of being a Gadsden.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's 6'4", 208. Like, he's got a big frame.
What's interesting also is that something that's not talked about a lot. I think there's a sneaky competition at running back.
Okay.
Because who's going to be your RB1? Is it Will Nixon or Yassine Willis?
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't actually think about that.
Because that is a good question.
Well, I think people forget, like, the tail end of the season without Nixon kind of made people think, okay, Willis is inherently the heir apparent. But when you add that along with, like, the pure speed of Malachi James, he's not going to be RB1, but
no,
like, add some of all that mix into the room, like Jaden Hart.
Exactly. That RB3 battle is also fascinating between Hart and James.
Yeah. So yeah, there's do you go Willis with the big body? Do you stick with Nixon, who was kind of your change-up guy last year, like your, I guess, 1A? I don't know. Where is there anything showing in camp yet?
Not that I can tell, but mainly because it's first day of camp. Most people are going to be focusing on the quarterback.
Right.
But that's a sneaky battle that probably will develop as camp goes on.
Yeah,
I unfortunately wasn't there on the first day of camp just due to other obligations, but that's a sneaky battle that's waiting to happen as well.
Right. At some point, I expect a full picture of what and where the offensive line looks like, because who the hell knows?
Well, let's talk about your favorite player who is now on campus, finally on campus, Steve.
Who?
The new heaviest player on the Syracuse roster.
Is that Mr. Byron Washington out of Texas?
6'7", 380 of him as a freshman.
That is a large human being. It's a very, very large human being. Now, I inherently don't expect him to walk in and play somewhere as a true freshman. Strictly, if nothing else, based on technique stuff. But that's a lot of beef to add to that room. Think about one of your starting guards who is 6'4", 301 and Mark Petrie, like barely cracking 300, standing next to a 6'7", 380-pound freshman. Like, that's got to be interesting.
I just want to remind people that Byron Washington, in his name, not his not his account, but his name on Instagram. He is nicknamed Big Baby.
Nice. Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
God, it's good to talk about football.
You
know what? It's also fun to talk about. The people at Home Field Apparel, the maker of Steve's wonderful Syracuse hat, which he loves very dearly and close to his chest.
Well, closer to my head than my chest.
Closer to your head, but yes.
Oh,
If you want to get Steve's Syracuse corduroy hat, or at least not, directly Steve's, but a version of Steve's corduroy
if you
hat.
Get mine, then you're gonna have to pay me like $5 more than what I can buy it back for on Home Field. So what's that?
And get through the guard dog.
Yeah. Inherently, if you do that, instead of paying me more money, what you should do is go to Home Field Apparel and use the promo code NUNES25, NUNES25.
24 or 25?
I
believe it's still 24.
If 24 doesn't work, try 25. For 15% off your first purchase, which will be cheaper than if you try and buy it off me.
You can get not just Steve's version of the retro corduroy hat. You get so many great retro tees, hoodies, other types of hats, even joggers, and even for other schools as well that you, your fans, or your friends or your family are alum of as well. And you can use the code NUNES24 at homefieldapparel.com to get 50% off your very first order at homefieldapparel.com. Always great to check out Home Field Apparel. Be sure to check out our friends there at homefieldapparel.com.
Absolutely. No, I have no good segue, but should we?
The segue is that we have to start eating our vegetables, Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say, should we touch on the fact that we jinxed it last week?
Yes.
So if anyone was listening last week, because I know some of you were, since we can see viewership numbers, we did a nice little breakdown on the Syracuse basketball roster and what was coming back last year. And we thought, we have some bodies, we have some holes to fill, but we have some bodies there. Like, it is what it is. We enjoyed a couple of pieces, and if some people could turn it around, it'd be great, like Chris Bell or like Kyle Cuff seemed like a great depth piece. Guess what? We also thought like there's a chance Elijah Moore could have a move from freshman to sophomore. We will never find out if any of those things come to fruition for the Syracuse Orange, as within the last week, for one, after being the first person saying he was returning, Kyle Cuff Jr. was also the first person to enter the transfer portal, followed by Chris Bell and Elijah Moore leaving the Syracuse with 1, 2, 3, 4 upperclassmen on scholarship.
Which has become the trend for Syracuse, unfortunately. Not a lot of players stick around for the entirety of their Syracuse run.
Or even half of it at this point.
Yes.
Seeing Cuff came in as a sophomore?
Don't remember exactly.
I think he transferred in last year and is transferring out this year.
Cuff's timeline is weird.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Because he came in from Kansas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So 1, 2, Bell. So 2 out of 3 of the announced transferees did not make it more than halfway through their Syracuse tenure.
Let's also remember that this is going to be in no ways done. Players still just have a little under a month left to enter their name into the transfer portal. Yeah. April 22nd is the deadline day for the portal. So there's still going to be a lot of movement between now and then. That will most likely include Syracuse players.
Yeah. And at this point, there's still 16 teams playing. So, and up until 4 days ago, it was like, 64?
Yeah.
So there's plenty of time for people to jump into the portal. We'll see what we can fish out of there. But at this point, we have 4 upperclassmen and 4 freshmen on scholarship. So that's 5 more we get to fill?
You would assume so. And again, we talked about it last week. This is where Alex Klein is going to make his money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, one of those freshmen is Kyan Anthony. I don't particularly think he needs Mike Jones.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
I don't particularly think Kyan may need a scholarship if we can find bodies that would want to fill that. I'm not a doctor, but his dad's name's on the building. I think he can probably afford to come to college.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's Kyan's dad again?
Some guy that was only here for a year.
Oh, okay. I mean, one and done.
Yeah, exactly. So he wasn't Dante Green. Let's put it that way. Another reference lost on the young.
Yeah, ain't that the
Steve
truth?
is old. Steve
Again,
was with Dante Green.
Again, this is Alex Klein's gonna have to start moving soon because if it's anything like football, these players go quickly.
Right, and like a lot of these are locked up by the time or close to the time they're entering the portal. So
exactly.
We'll see what happens with this. Like I don't want to say I'm not hopeful, but I'm not hopeful. So,
but that makes an interesting discussion point. Why are you not hopeful, Steve?
Nothing in the past since Jesus. I was going to say nothing since Jim Boeheim retired has made me hopeful, but nothing since a long time before Jim Boeheim retired has made me hopeful. So when it comes to Syracuse basketball, I'm usually the doom and gloom guy.
Now, do you hope? Now, I would assume that the hope is that, from what it sounds like, even though Adrian Autry has the final say on players that are being pursued by the program, you would assume that Alex Klein is doing most of the legwork here.
Yeah, you would think so. Like that seems like the means and methods that would make the most sense.
And for those who don't know, Alex Klein is the general manager of Syracuse, who joined in July of 2024. So he wasn't around for the last transfer cycle, but he's been with this program for almost a year now.
Yep.
And you would assume knows what Adrian Autry wants in order to build his team.
Yeah, one would think. And I guess we'll find out if that is the case.
We will indeed find out if that is the case. As usual, let's finish off with good lacrosse stuff as well.
Which is weird to talk about this year.
It's very weird for both the men's and the women's team.
And this is not to say that the men's and women's teams are bad teams. It's just like, it seems like anytime we have a pod seems to be coming off their losses.
Well, at least for both of them, they're coming off wins.
Exactly.
And for the men, it was a win over the surprising number 18 team in the land, Colgate, 16-12 over the weekend. And then the women just barely scraping by number 21 Notre Dame just earlier today on Sunday. And guess what for the men? That's it for your easy schedule, quote unquote.
Yeah, it doesn't get much. There's no getting easier.
Because guess what? It's time for ECC play.
Right. Who's next?
The easiest of the teams, the team that's only receiving votes in Virginia. The problem is you have to go down to Klockner.
Yeah, about that.
Mm-hmm. And then Syracuse comes back to the Dome to play the reigning national champions in Notre Dame.
Right. Who, technically at this point are only ranked number 8. So
yeah. But don't worry for Syracuse, it gets easier because you do not have to play an ACC game the next week. You just have to go to Long
game. Like what?
Yeah, you just go to Long Island to play Cornell.
I still don't that still boggles my mind. Sorry.
And of course, me being the Cornell propagandist here, Steve, do you know how many? Here's another fun trivia question. How many goals did CJ Kurse score against Yale on Saturday?
My U-swag, based on the way you described that, is 6.
9.
That is the second time you've gotten a reaction out of me like that in this podcast.
Question 2. How many did he score in the first half?
I'll continue with 6.
It's 8.
Okay, that's just wrong.
Question 3. How many did he score in the first quarter?
Gonna try the 6 again.
Congratulations. It was 6 in the first quarter.
Hey, we got there. Wow. After Saturday, there's not a non-single digit seed till the ACC or championships.
North Carolina has suddenly become a powerhouse. The offense is clicking now with Owen Duffy really leading the charge, and then younger um, the younger Piramala child, Petramala child. Why did I say Piramala? The younger Petramala child, helping the UNC. Duke's going to be Duke. Notre Dame is obviously Notre Dame.
I don't get it.
And then again, remember, sandwich in between is Cornell.
Yeah, and like right now, Syracuse is 7-2. One would not think that feels bad.
But remember, there are only it feels bad when you remember there are only 8 auto bids up. There are only 8 at-large bids up for grabs.
Right.
In the NCAA tournament, and the ACC does not get an auto bid.
Oh yeah, I forget about that every time.
The ACC still needs another program in order to receive an auto bid into the NCAA tournament.
And of that 7-2, they lost to Maryland, lost to Harvard, beat Johns Hopkins. So like that's your
big resume win right now is Hopkins.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's it's gonna be weird.
It is definitely going to be weird.
What did Hopkins do this week?
They got upset by Rutgers.
Great. That doesn't really make for. And Harvard lost to Princeton.
But Princeton is to be fair, Princeton is number 6 in the nation.
Right, but still, like,
mm-hmm.
I mean,
but still, it looks like Harvard's going to be either the 3rd or 4th best team, or maybe even 5th best team in the nation in terms of the Ivy League standings.
Right. Maryland finally lost. There's that.
Yeah, triple overtime to Michigan.
Right. So, also a thing. Apparently, Michigan has a lacrosse program.
Oh, you missed when the Big Ten championship a couple years ago was Michigan-Ohio State.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
I believe it was Ohio State winning at Michigan, or the other way around. Other way, it was the one team winning at the other team's away field, which certainly wasn't fun for the home crowd and faithful.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. So yeah, that's the men. On the men's side, still. A quick shout out to Joey Spallina and Owen Hiltz, who have joined the 200-point club.
Spallina is the 2nd fastest player in Syracuse history to 200 points.
Yeah. I heard when he came in, he was supposed to be good.
And he's living up to it.
Yeah. Except against big teams.
Not really anymore. But
that was his early calling card of falling apart when he needed to, and he seems to have fixed that issue.
Another fun game to play, trivia-wise. How many points does Spallina have?
I just pulled it up.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, so Steve knows it's 11, and that's a career high for Spallina.
That's it.
And yes, is it Colgate? Yes, but this is still a top 20 team in Colgate.
Right. Yeah. 5 goals, 6 assists. That's just crazy.
It's pretty good.
Yep.
It puts it really into perspective when a great stat line for Owen Hiltz, 3 goals and 2 assists, is seen as pedestrian for Syracuse.
Yep. So, cool. What do we got over on the other side?
The other side, the ladies are still trying to figure out how to live without Olivia Adamson, which is really the big thing.
Yeah. Like this week, I think they eked out both games, right?
Yeah, only 2 against Loyola and a 1 against Notre Dame. Both were in the top 20. Both were in the top 25, but again,
but like Notre Dame is not the men's Notre Dame, and Loyola is not the men's Loyola.
Exactly.
Actually, I have no idea how the men's Loyola is this year, but
men's Loyola are horrifically awful.
What happened?
I don't know, but men's Loyola is one of 3 teams in Division I men's lacrosse that are winless.
How the solid have fallen?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well.
Again, side tangent for lacrosse. The Patriot League this year in the men's are insane. Because you have Colgate, obviously.
Yeah.
Colgate has a Patriot League loss, and it's to Bucknell. So you never know with Bucknell. And then the big one this weekend, Boston upset Army this week.
Like BU?
Yes.
Huh.
Boston upset Army.
Didn't expect that one.
Yeah, and Boston is a top 20 team, yes, but Army was a number 3 team in the nation, excuse me, with many who believe has the best goalie in the nation as well.
Well then, yeah, I guess we're all in on the Patriot League.
Indeed. I mean, on the women's side, it doesn't get easier because they will host Virginia at the Dome this next upcoming weekend, and then they have to travel on a brutal stretch of road games for 3 straight games. The first one comes against Yale, who is the best team in the Ivy League in women's lacrosse. Just lost, but is in the top 10.
Okay.
Then they have to fly cross country. After playing Yale on Wednesday, they have to travel cross country to play Cal on Saturday. That Saturday.
That seems normal.
At least they get a week off, but then they have to travel again down to Blacksburg to take on Virginia Tech.
Okay.
And then finally, they can come home and close out the regular season against Boston College with a caveat.
What's the caveat?
Yes, you're going to play home against Boston College. You're going to play it at CBA.
Oh, boy. Yeah. All in all, it seems like a really, really bad way to end the season for them.
So guess what? For the women, the last game happening at the Dome this season is this Saturday. This upcoming Saturday in 6 days.
That's weird.
Oh, yeah.
Syracuse sports makes me nuts.
Yeah. It should. Well, it shouldn't. Let's rephrase this. Syracuse sports shouldn't make you nuts.
Right.
But guess what?
It should.
But guess what?
What's it?
You lose. Good day, sir.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah. I don't know. All in all, it was a week. I'm glad we were able to get on because I know we had some scheduling conflicts, but there was enough stuff that I'm very glad we were able to get on.
Definitely
recaps
so.
and things.
Hopefully the next time we come on, we get to talk about a scrimmage or a joint practice that is actually going to happen.
Right. Yeah, maybe. And also maybe we have something positive out of the not football news. I am not holding my breath, but
so what I'm going to do now is search up the JJ Watt Hard Knocks video so that Steve can see what I'm talking about of the aura that is JJ Watt, similar to the aura that is Amir Khan, and the soon to be fighting Kadir Copeland's at NC State, because it feels like a foregone conclusion that Kadir is going to go to NC State.
Yeah. Kadir.
He'd be nice to have on Syracuse right now, right?
Don't.
And on that note, thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Disloyal Idiots Podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network. If you're watching our live stream on Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube, we thank you for watching. We do these most Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're listening on your podcast platform of choice, we thank you so much for listening and tuning in as well. You can leave a like, rating, review, subscription, or leave a comment as well so that we can trick the algorithm into expanding the Ottoman Empire. At least football season's around, and you never thought you'd say that as a Syracuse fan, right?
No, not at all.
What you will say is go Orange.
Go Orange.